The Indiana Fever defeat the Valkyries for the first time after last season getting swept by them in a game that I really wanted the Indiana Fever to win. Caitlin Clark was back in the lineup, and this thing at one point turned into the Caitlin Clark versus Tiffany Hayes duel. And man, it was competitive. They were talking junk to each other. They were firing up. It was physical. They were letting each other have it. And at the end of the day, Caitlin got the better of the situation, finished the game with 22 points, 9 boards, looking every bit like the MVP candidate that she is.
ESPN can talk about the numbers. The box score can show the final result. But what happened when Caitlin Clark faced the Golden State Valkyries was bigger than 22 points, 9 assists, and 4 made threes. This was the night the other side finally had to say the quiet part out loud. They tried to speed her up. They tried to get physical. They tried to throw different defensive looks at her. They tried to drag her into a street fight. And after all of that, Valkyries coach Natalie Nakasi still had to stand in front of a microphone and admit the truth.
What did Indiana do to get Caitlin Clark going?
I think a lot, obviously, in transition. She flows really well. And then setting, a ton of ball screens. But we had, I think, a good coverage. I thought we had a good game plan. I just thought they were the more physical team. This is to me, they did play harder than us. Which again, that's who we are. We usually fight, with more physicality. We fight more together. And I think this game, give credit to Fever. They were ready. They were ready for the battle.
Caitlin Clark was unstoppable because this was not just a regular season win for the Indiana Fever. This was a response, a statement, a warning shot to the rest of the league that if you give Caitlin Clark a reason, she will make you regret it. And Golden State gave her plenty. Before we even get to the second half, you have to understand the pressure Clark was carrying into this game.
So that was a lot of fun. The Indiana Fever showed a lot of fight against the Golden State Valkyries because the Valkyries came out, they're a team, they have length, they have athleticism, they were hacking a little bit, and the Fever fought through it. Caitlin Clark fought through it. She had struggled against the Valkyries last year, not in this one. She's been hitting the logo bombs, she's diming people up, got the support from Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell. As always, Sophie Cunningham was good off the bench. Raven Johnson made a nice impression in her minutes, and it was nice to see the Fever fight and come away with a win.
The week leading into it had already been messy. There were questions about her injury timeline. There were narratives online. There were people trying to twist the story around when she knew she was out, when her family knew, and when the public found out. Clark addressed it directly.
Can you just take us through your Tuesday and Wednesday, both regarding
I was hoping you were going to ask. Okay.
Your practice and back.
So I woke up. Tuesday I was here. I got treatment, as I've done many practices before, as many of my teammates have done. Had every intention of playing. Didn't indicate I wasn't going to play. Approached Wednesday, if that was the day of our game, as I was 100% playing. Woke up Tuesday, felt a little sore. Texted our training staff, texted my personal physio. Then do you want to know what I ate for breakfast too? So then I had a filet, I had 2 eggs over medium, I had potatoes and 2 blueberry waffles with butter and syrup. Then I had PT at home. Then I came down here about 1 o'clock and we tried to do everything we can, got on the court, I lifted, went through a hard workout. And I actually went back and looked, because of all these narratives that are going crazy online, about when I told my mom I wasn't gonna play the game. 4:47 and you guys found out at 5:20. So one of the most important people in my life found out 40 minutes before you guys. So that's what my 2 days leading up to that Wednesday game looked like.
She explained that even one of the most important people in her life, her own mother, only found out shortly before the public did. In other words, the idea that there was some long, hidden cover-up did not make sense. The timeline was too tight. The facts did not support it. But the damage had already been done. Once a narrative gets repeated enough, people start treating it like truth. And Clark looked like someone who was done letting other people define the story for her. That matters, because great players do not just respond with words. They respond with the ball in their hands. And against the Valkyries, Clark walked into Gainbridge Fieldhouse with that edge.
What a game. The Indiana Fever have finally beaten the Golden State Valkyries. And this game, you could cut the tension with a knife. It was chippy. It almost felt kind of like a powder keg that could explode at any moment. There were a lot of fouls, and each team was given 2 techs. That is 4 techs for the entire game, including one that Caitlin had no idea about. Actually, Stephanie White also had no idea about, and they talked about it in the post-game presser.
Happened in that chippy moment with Solana at halftime that led to the double text.
I was just trying. Oh, did I get a technical?
You did.
Oh, no way. That just makes sense for the rest of the game, so I'm not surprised. Wow. Wow, I could have got ejected. I should have been over 6 in the second half. Okay, well, guess I have some fines coming my way. And flagrant. Wow, you're paying a lot too. Well.
Not wild, not out of control, but focused. Angry in the way great competitors get angry, where every little thing becomes fuel. Golden State had a plan. They knew they could not let her get comfortable. They wanted to make her work for every touch. They wanted to bother her, crowd her, hit her with pressure, and force the Fever into uncomfortable possessions.
Things got a little edgy there right before halftime. Salute to Caitlin for standing up for herself and not taking any stuff from the Valkyries. Man, I don't think this was one of these situations where girls are hating on Caitlin. I feel like this was just Caitlin going after the ball. The girl hit her with a chicken wing. The girl should have let Caitlin foul her. Maybe they would have went to the line and got some cheap free throws. I do not think this has anything to do with girls hating on Caitlin. I did not get any of that from the Valkyries today, man. I just got that they're a tough team. Not like a tough as like the Raiders or the, Detroit Pistons, but they're a tough, solid team. They play the right way. They're a very, very good team.
For a while, it felt like the game was heading in that direction. It was physical. It was tense. It had that feeling where every bump and every stare carried a little extra weight. And that tension finally boiled over before halftime. Clark went after a loose ball with Janelle Salon, and suddenly, it was not just a basketball play anymore. Salon got into Clark's face. Clark did not back away. The two had words. The benches started to react. Players had to step in before it turned into something bigger.
Now here we go on the other side. We got Tiffany Hayes taking it to the rack here. Tiffany Hayes taking it to the rack on Caitlin Clark. Starts clapping in Caitlin Clark's face. Takes it to the rack on Caitlin Clark. Starts clapping in Caitlin Clark's face. Jaws at her right after. Jaws at her right after. At this point, do you know what Caitlin Clark said? And I'm going to bring back our good old friend, someone who we miss dearly. Do you know what Caitlin Clark said here?
Was, hey coach, they woke a monster.
They woke a monster. You're damn right, Christy. You are damn right. What did she say here?
I just tried to keep her spirits. The thing she said was, hey coach, they woke a monster.
They woke a monster. Yeah, they woke the monster. they woke demon time, Caitlin Clark. They woke up. Oh, this. Caitlin Clark. They woke up. Oh, you're gonna clap in my face? Caitlin Clark. They woke up the wrong side. You want to keep her calm. You want to keep her calm. You want to keep her passive. You don't want to get her too fired up. You don't want to get her too charged up. Because that's when the Mamba part of her comes out. That's when the I'm going to slit your neck part of Caitlin Clark on the basketball court, of course. I'm going to kill you on the court. Caitlin Clark comes out. I'm going to crush everything you love on the court. Caitlin Clark. That's when it comes out.
The officials handed out double technicals, one to Clark, one to Salon, and that moment changed the entire temperature of the game. Because here is the thing about Caitlin Clark. She does not need the game to be calm. She does not need everybody to like her. She does not need the defense to play nice. In fact, sometimes the more chaotic it gets, the more dangerous she becomes. That double technical did not take her out of the game mentally. It switched her on.
Oh, you hate to see it. Caitlin Clark, logo threes, FU threes, 3-level score, taking it to the rack, mid-range fadeaways, FUs. Love to see it. Her and Tiffany Hayes going head-to-head, face-to-face at half court. Caitlin Clark pulling up from long range. Tiffany Hayes turning around, looking at CC. Caitlin Clark says, let's go. Me and you right now. And as soon as that occurred, Tiffany Hayes couldn't hit a layup for the rest of the game. As soon as that moment transpired, Tiffany Hayes was too worried about sticking it to CC. She forgot how to play basketball. Ooh, it was bad.
Golden State probably thought they were dragging her into their kind of fight. But what they actually did was give her the emotional spark she needed. And when the second half started, Clark came out like a completely different problem. She brought the ball up the floor. The game was tight. The crowd was waiting. The defense was trying to settle in. Clark did not wait. She stepped into a deep three from way beyond the arc and buried it. That was the moment, not just because of the shot, but because of what it said. After all the noise, after the physicality, after the double technical, after the injury narrative, after everything that had been building around her, Clark pulled up from. She has been around the league. She knows how to compete. And Clark looked completely comfortable standing in that moment and giving it back. That is what people miss when they only talk about Clark as a shooter. Yes, the logo threes are ridiculous. Yes, the passing is elite. Yes, the range changes the geometry of the floor, but the real problem is her nerve. She does not shrink when the moment gets loud. She gets sharper.
This is the junior goon squad to last year's Tina Charles, Marina Mabry-led Connecticut Sun. That is what the Golden State Valkyries tried to turn into with Caitlin Clark, but it did not matter because my demon was on timing and she tore him up. We got to get into Myisha Hines-Allen on this one. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification, hype the video. That'd be greatly appreciated. We got to get into it. So there was a few mix-ups here in this game versus the Golden State Valkyries. And what I noticed and what many people noticed was Myisha Hines-Allen was not hesitant. She was sprinting front and center. Who said what? Who trying to do what? Who trying to touch 22? What you want to do? We love that. We love that because for so long we watched Caitlin Clark get targeted and get flagrantly fouled, people poking her in the eye, people knocking her to the floor when the game is not even in play, and none of her teammates would step up and defend her. That's a part of the reason why Sophie Cunningham went up to 1 million followers overnight, because we saw, okay, she understands the benefits that she's gonna get coming to play with Caitlin Clark, the style of play, all of the off the court stuff, but at least she's willing to do her part and protect the GOAT. That's part of the reason why we love Sophie Cunningham, and that's just a fact.
From there, Indiana started to look like the version of the Fever that should scare people. Clark was not just hunting shots. She was controlling the entire game. She was reading coverages. She was finding the gaps. She was forcing Golden State to make impossible choices. Step up too high and she finds the roll. Drop too far and she shoots. Overhelp and she hits the open player. Stay home and she attacks the mismatch.
Let's start. Caitlin Clark, 22 points, 9 assists, 2 rebounds, 2 stocks. Caitlin Clark through 57 games is more points than Diana Taurasi, more assists than anyone, more threes than anyone, witnessing a legendary run. And so far, Caitlin Clark this season, 3rd in points per game at 23.8, 1st in assists, and 1st in 3-pointers made. Looking at the box score for the Valkyrie, it was bad.
That is why Nakasi's post-game comments mattered so much. Because coaches can live with one great shot maker. They can build schemes around taking away one action. But Clark is not just one action. She is the system. When they guessed wrong, Clark punished them. The biggest winner from that was Aaliyah Boston. Boston had a monster game. 20 points, 16 rebounds, 8 made shots. She controlled the paint, cleaned the glass, and gave Indiana the inside force they needed. But what made it even more important was how connected she looked with Clark. That Clark-Boston partnership is the Fever's ceiling. When Clark is getting downhill, pulling defenders out of position, and delivering the ball on time, Boston becomes a nightmare. She does not have to force touches. She does not have to create everything from a standstill. She can catch it in rhythm, seal deep, finish strong, and punish the defense for paying too much attention to Clark. That is the part the rest of the league has to worry about. Because when Clark is only scoring, she is dangerous. But when Clark is scoring and unlocking Boston, the Fever becomes something much bigger. They become a team with structure, balance, inside-out pressure, and a real identity. That is what Nakasi had to admit after the game. Golden State had a plan. They had effort. They had physicality. They had defenders willing to make Clark uncomfortable. And still, it did not work. Because Caitlin Clark adjusted. She found the weak spots. She found the passing windows. She found the moments to strike. That is what separates a great shooter from a great engine. A shooter can get hot. An engine changes everything around her. And right now, that is what Clark is becoming for the Fever. This win was not just about Indiana beating Golden State 90-82. It was about what the game revealed. Clark can take the hit. She can take the noise. She can take the trash talk. She can take the media storm. And still come out in the second half and control the entire building. That is why this game felt different. It was not perfect. It was not clean. It was not some easy highlight reel against a team that gave up. It was messy, physical, emotional. And Clark still bent the game in her direction. That is what stars do. But more importantly, that is what franchise players do. They do not just survive pressure, they turn it into separation. And the Valkyries learned that lesson in real time. They tried to make Caitlin Clark uncomfortable. Instead, they woke her up. And once she got rolling, even their own coach had no choice but to admit it. Caitlin Clark is unstoppable. And if this is the version of Clark the Fever are getting now, angry, healthy, locked in, talking back, hitting from deep, and feeding Aaliyah Boston in rhythm, the rest of the WNBA has a real problem. Because this does not look like a player trying to find herself. This looks like a player who already knows exactly who she is, and now the league is being forced to deal with it.
You know, it's really sad, man. Every time I think the WNBA can't look worse, they find a way to do it. So now we got Tiffany Hayes. She's on Threads, responding to fans who are talking crazy about Caitlin Clark. And it's just like, Tiffany Hayes, all right, you are a good basketball player. You had every opportunity to show that you was better than Caitlin Clark. And in all reality, you couldn't do it. All right? You was doing you. But when Clark landed that bomb from Baghdad on you, you quickly got in your feelings, which made no sense because you was crying the whole game.
Tiffany Hayes made one massive mistake against Caitlin Clark. She thought getting physical, talking trash, and clapping in Clark's face would throw her off. But instead, she woke up the most dangerous version of Caitlin Clark we have seen all season. Because after that moment, Clark did not just play better. She started hunting Golden State. And the scary part is, the more emotional the game became, the more locked in Caitlin Clark looked.
Now, you would think, with everything that has happened online with Tiffany Hayes and the hot mic situation, she would have just left the entire thing alone. Well, I'm here to tell you, she opted not to do that. Now she's going online, going back and forth with Caitlin Clark fans, and she's subliminally still going on with a verbal assault against Caitlin Clark and her fan base. Bro, this whole thing is getting bad. And as of right now, to me, from the outside looking in, the WNBA has to do something. Now, I know everybody got like the freedom of speech and all of that, but when it starts turning into hate speech, that's where we got to draw the line. Because as of right now, it is looking like Caitlin Clark is a target simply because she's having a spectacular start of the season. All of this hate is starting because Caitlin Clark is whooping ass and taking names.
The Golden State Valkyries came into this matchup with a clear plan. Pressure Clark, bump her, trap her, make her uncomfortable before she gets into rhythm. That has become the league's favorite strategy against Caitlin Clark. Teams know if they let her walk into her offense, the game can change in seconds. One deep three, one full court pass, one transition push, one crowd explosion. Suddenly, the entire building belongs to her. So Golden State tried to stop that before it started, but this game proved something the rest of the WNBA should probably be worried about. When Caitlin Clark gets emotional, it does not always break her rhythm. Sometimes it sharpens it, and Tiffany Hayes found that out the hard way.
Yesterday we got the insane game. We got an insane game right here between Caitlin Clark versus Tiffany Hayes. And this is like good old fashioned. This is good old fashioned competitive basketball hatred. This is pure ball. Nothing more, nothing less. Yes, we have Caitlin Clark haters posting think pieces on threads, getting hundreds of likes saying that teams should sign dev players whose only purpose is to go out and injure Caitlin Clark. But like, you know that's going to happen. These threads is literally the most unhinged, like WNBA threads is the most unhinged place in the world. It is the most unhinged place in the world. And I came from the NBA 2K community. I didn't think it was going to get worse than 2K. 2K is the most toxic gaming. I didn't realize it was going to get so much worse with this stuff. But Tip Hayes versus Caitlin Clark was a movie. First of all,
early in the game, Hayes came out aggressive. She attacked the rim. She hit tough shots. She played with confidence. And after one bucket, she started clapping right in Caitlin Clark's face. The cameras caught it. The crowd felt it. The benches noticed it. And in that moment, this stopped feeling like a normal regular season game.
In the defense of Caitlin did get away with more push-offs today than she normally does. But as a referee, if you're going to let her get mauled, you have to allow the push-off. That's what I was saying at the start of the year when Caitlin was getting called for the offensive fouls and push-offs. I'm like, if the referees are going to call people for hand-checking you at the halfway line, then obviously you can't push off. And I think Caitlin doesn't even get separation to push-offs. It's actually frustrating. It really, really frustrates me in general when it comes down to Caitlin with the push-offs, because I'm like, she actually doesn't get anything from the push-offs. She does it out of habit. That is the most frustrating thing about it, is that like she does it out of habit. But like Caitlin Clark obviously getting into it immediately through this whole game. Like they were already getting into it a little bit. Tip Hayes was cooking Caitlin. This was a like old fashioned two players going at each other. Pure basketball shit talk. Like this is what you want to see. So Tip Hayes is trying to guard Caitlin. Boom. Caitlin, easy. I don't know what she's calling for. Caitlin got hacked before that, by the way. There's no contact there at all. But like immediately, Caitlin Clark from the logo here. Tip Hayes, I think, had scored in the previous possession. Caitlin Clark goes into that, and you see Tip Hayes during this. Watch Tip Hayes. She immediately makes contact with her. That could have been, like, I don't think it should have been. She had already landed, but like, I'm sorry, the bump there, that could have been a rebounding foul. That could have, and in the WNBA, that's an and one. In Europe, that's not an and one.
You could see Clark's face change. She was not smiling. She was not backing down. She looked angry, locked in, dangerous. And that is when the entire energy of the game shifted, because Tiffany Hayes was not just challenging Clark physically, she was challenging her emotionally. And that matters. Because ever since Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA, players have tried to test her. They have bumped her. They have trapped her. They have picked her up full court. They have tried to speed her up, frustrate her, and prove she is not as special as the attention says she is. But this time, Clark did not shrink. She answered. And she answered in the coldest way possible.
We got to give credit where credit's due to Caitlin Clark, because this is where you're like, okay, yeah, this is a fucking demon. He's the player that we wanted to see. Washington woke it up. But Caitlin, you like that. Get out of my face. Come on, get it. And Mai Shines Allen immediately steps in to stop anything from happening. Like, this is a big thing. Like, Caitlin absolutely cooking Tip Hayes. That being said, to act like Tip Hayes didn't cook Caitlin with that step back earlier on in the game. Like, Tip Hayes absolutely cooked Caitlin. Absolutely cooked Caitlin here. And like, I gotta say, like, we're not gonna pretend that Tip Hayes didn't get hers. Caitlin won the game in the end, but Tip Hayes absolutely got hers.
Clark crossed half court. Hayes was right there. The defense was waiting. And without hesitation, Clark pulled up from ridiculous range. Splash, a logo 3. Right in the middle of the moment. But the shot was only half the story. Because after it dropped, Clark stepped toward Hayes. She stared her down, and she started talking back.
Now, unfortunately, Tiffany Hayes was just a victim. Now, we know that Caitlin Clark likes to talk smack and do her thing, but what athlete don't talk smack when they hot on fire and then you keep poking a bear? Like, why keep poking a bear? Now, mind you, they got to play the Valkyries again this upcoming Wednesday. Now, Caitlin Clark is at the Indy 500. Look like she's not tripping off none of this stuff involving Tiffany Hayes. She has not spoke about it. She has not tweeted about it. She is minding her own business, taking pictures with babies, out there being the Grand Marshal, well, the best Grand Marshal ever. Thousands of people walking up to get her autograph. But instead, we got this hate speech coming out of the pipeline in regards to Tiffany Hayes. Something has to be done, bruh. Something has to be done.
Golden State looked rattled. The shots that were falling early stopped looking easy. Drives to the rim became rushed. Layups started missing. Possessions got messy. And while the Valkyries were trying to regain control, Clark looked more comfortable with every minute. That is the part that should scare the rest of the league.
Today, Tiffany Hayes, she started a fight that she wasn't ready to engage in. As soon as Caitlin Clark stared her down after hitting a logo 3 in her face, said, hey, it's me and you, girl. What you got? From that moment on, Tiffany Hayes collapsed. ISO ball, she would get, they would switch CC onto her. She would try to take her to the rack. Tiffany Hayes throwing up garbage at the rim. Layups off the backboard, off the stanchion, missing the whole entire, missing it completely. Tiffany Hayes, she picked a fight with CC. She wasn't ready to get into it. And I'm saying she picked a fight because she started it. Caitlin Clark finished it.
Because this was not just Caitlin Clark hitting deep threes. This was the full Caitlin Clark package. Pull-up bombs, quick reads, thread the needle passes, transition pressure, mid-range shots, physical defense, and even hard screens. She finished with 22 points and 9 assists, barely missing another double-double while controlling the pace of the game. But the numbers do not fully explain what happened. Because this was about control. Clark controlled the tempo. She controlled the emotion. She controlled where the defense had to stand. And she controlled the crowd. Every time Golden State tried to make the game uncomfortable, Clark turned that discomfort into fuel. That is why this performance felt different. For months, critics have said the blueprint against Caitlin Clark is physical basketball. Make her work, make her angry, make her complain, make her rush. But against Golden State, that plan backfired. The more physical the game became, the more aggressive Clark became. The more Hayes talked, the more Clark responded. The more the Valkyries tried to trap her, the more she punished them with passes. And the moment they gave her space, she launched from a different area code. That is not easy to guard, because with Clark, defenders are stuck in a nightmare. If they sag off, she shoots. If they press up, she drives. If they trap, she passes. If they get physical, she gets fired up. And once she gets fired up, the game can completely flip.
Then at the end of the game, I'm gonna cry about it. I'm gonna cry to the referees. They don't call anything. The Golden State Valkyrie tried their best to rough up Caitlin Clark yesterday. Natalie Nakaze, I figured Caitlin Clark out. She tried her best to rough her up. But something that you didn't know last year, Natalie, Cece was injured. So all of this, I have her figured out, that you were convincing yourself of. Perhaps not, Natalie. Perhaps not.
Aaliyah Boston dominated inside. She gave Indiana a real presence in the paint, attacking the glass and punishing Golden State around the rim. Kelsey Mitchell added scoring pressure. Sophie Cunningham brought energy and toughness. And the Fever started playing with a level of confidence that matched Clark's intensity. But make no mistake, this game belonged to Caitlin Clark. Because Boston could punish them inside because Clark was terrifying them outside. That is the hidden power of Caitlin Clark.
Now here we go on the other side. We got Tiffany Hayes taking it to the rack here. Tiffany Hayes taking it to the rack on Caitlin Clark. Starts clapping in Caitlin Clark's face. Takes it to the rack on Caitlin Clark. Starts clapping in Caitlin Clark's face. Jaws at her right after. Jaws at her right after. At this point, do you know what Caitlin Clark said? And I'm going to bring back our good old friend, someone who we miss dearly. Do you know what Caitlin Clark said here?
It was, hey coach, they woke a monster.
They woke a fucking monster. You're damn right, Christy. You are damn right. What did she say here?
You know, I just tried to keep her spirits. I mean, the thing she said was, hey coach, they woke a monster.
They woke a monster. Yeah, they woke the monster. they woke demon time, Caitlin Clark. They woke up. Oh, fuck all this. Caitlin Clark. They woke up. Oh, you're gonna clap in my face? Caitlin Clark. They woke up the wrong side. You want to keep her calm. You know, you want to keep her calm. You want to keep her passive. You don't want to get her too fired up. You don't want to get her too charged up. Because that's when the Mamba part of her comes out. That's when the I'm going to slit your neck part of Caitlin Clark on the basketball court, of course. I'm going to kill you on the court. Caitlin Clark comes out. I'm going to crush everything you love on the court. Caitlin Clark. That's when it comes out.
She does not just score points. She changes the geometry of the floor. Defenders pick her up near half court. Help defenders lean toward her. Bigs have to step higher than they want to. Passing lanes open. Teammates get cleaner looks. And every possession feels like it could turn into a highlight. That is why one logo 3 can feel bigger than 3 points. It changes the defense. It changes the crowd. It changes the confidence of both teams. And in this game, it changed Tiffany Hayes. Because after the trash talk escalated, Hayes never looked like she had the same rhythm again. That is what fans noticed immediately. She started the game with confidence. But once Clark fired back, the whole situation flipped. And after the game, the drama did not stop. When Hayes spoke post-game, fans felt she tried to downplay what happened. Instead of simply admitting Clark took over, the message was more about Golden State needing to fix the little things. But that is why the reaction online exploded. Because fans were not buying it. This did not feel like a few little things. This felt like Caitlin Clark taking the game away from them. You do not accidentally stop a player from pulling up near the logo. You do not accidentally stop a player who is throwing full court. That is the bigger story. Last season, teams tested Clark to see if she could handle the physicality. Now, when they test her, she responds with deeper shots, louder moments, and more confidence. That is a dangerous evolution. Because if Caitlin Clark combines elite shooting, elite passing, and this kind of killer mentality, the Fever become a completely different problem. She is not just a scorer. She is not just a passer. She is not just a draw. She is the player who changes the emotional temperature of a game. And that is why the Tiffany Hayes moment mattered so much. It gave Clark a target. It gave the crowd a reason to explode. And it gave the Fever the edge they needed. Some players get quieter when the game gets heated. Caitlin Clark got louder. Some players avoid the moment when defenders start talking. Clark walked straight into it. Some players try to calm everything down. Clark turned the chaos into a weapon. And that is why this moment is going to keep getting replayed. The logo 3. The stare down, the jawing, the physicality, the crowd reaction, the post-game debate. It all pointed to the same thing. Caitlin Clark is no longer just the player everyone is watching. She is becoming the player opponents are afraid of waking up. And that is why Tiffany Hayes may have made the biggest mistake of the night. She tried to get under Caitlin Clark's skin, but all she really did was unlock her. Because Clark did not just win the moment, she owned it. She made the shot, she talked back, she controlled the pace, and she reminded everyone that if you turn a Caitlin Clark game into a personal battle, you better be ready for what comes next. Tiffany Hayes did not expose Caitlin Clark. She exposed what happens when you make Caitlin Clark angry. So now the question is simple. Did Tiffany Hayes make a huge mistake by waking up Caitlin Clark, or is this just the beginning of Clark taking over the entire WNBA? Let me know in the comments. And if you're still watching, drop Clark woke up in the comments.